Hello and welcome to this edition of Middle East Matters. I'm Julia Kim. Coming up on the programme this week. As Turkey's ongoing economic crisis fuels xenophobia, Syrian refugees live in fear over government plans to send them back over the border. Burying the hatchet, face-to-face talks between the leaders of Saudi Arabia and Turkey signal that the regional rivals are moving on from the 2018 killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. And Israel dissolves parliament and heads for its fifth election in 3 years following the collapse of its fractured ruling coalition. But first, half of all Syrian refugees live in Turkey. That's 3.6 million people, according to official numbers. The country's ongoing economic crisis is fueling rising xenophobia, and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is now threatening to send them back to a so-called safe zone his government is creating in northern Syria. Well, in the southern city of Gaziantep, 1 in 4 residents is Syrian, and they're terrified at this idea. Shona Bhattacharya and Ludovic Defoucault, as well as Hassam Hammoud, have this report.
محمد سعيد الإسلام لجأت لتركيا. أنا مقيم حاليا ملاجئ بمدينة غازيانتب.
Mohammed escaped Al-Huta near Damascus in 2018 before fleeing to northern Syria. From there, he was smuggled to Turkey.
وضع استقراري نوعا ما يعني لحد الآن بس هالقرارات اللي عم تطلع إنه ترحيل وما ترحيل فعم تخوفنا كتير يعني هلا مثل أنا.
To placate public opinion, President Erdogan has vowed another military incursion in northern Syria. There, he plans to establish another so-called safe zone to resettle Syrians back over the border, an area Mohammed knows well.
We lived in what they say is a safe zone, and I can tell you there's nothing safe about it. In fact, the dangerous situation there pushed us to come to Turkey. I have 3 children. I want to raise them in a safe country. When I first came to Turkey, honestly, I imagined building a life here. But now, with these political debates, I have started putting together a file to ask for asylum somewhere else.
By somewhere else, Mohammed means Europe, and that's exactly what the European Union hopes to avoid. Last year, the 2016 migration pact between Brussels and Ankara was renewed. According to the deal, Turkey must keep its Syrian refugees in return for financial aid. But contrary to President Erdogan's wishes, that money doesn't go into state coffers. Instead, it's channeled into projects like this one, coordinated by the Humanitarian Department of the European Commission.
We select a bunch of NGOs. We give the money to them. They select some local implementing partners, like this organization called Sanad, that is providing a center for disabled people. They monitor the funding, they monitor the success of the program, they report to Humanitarian Aid Organization, which is us here in Gaziantep, Turkey.
There was this little boy who was very introverted. After several seasons here, he began interacting with other kids. He opened up and even started to think about his future.
Since 2011, the European Union has allocated more than 20 billion euros to help Syrians around the world. Part of that money is meant to give them a future in Turkey on one condition. Turkey must continue to welcome what the president still calls its Syrian brothers.
Now this week, the leaders of Saudi Arabia and Turkey are turning the page after years of strained relations exacerbated by that 2018 killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi embassy in Istanbul. Face-to-face dialogue is the order of the day between Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Ahead of bin Salman's visit to Ankara, Saudi Arabia ended a travel ban to Turkey, opening the door once again to tourism and investment. Well, to talk more about this, our guest this week is Dorothée Schmid, head of IFRI's Turkey and Middle East program. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Bonjour.
Now, I want to start by asking, what does this visit mean for Saudi-Turkish ties?
As you know, Turkey and Saudi Arabia have had extremely strained relations for the last, let's say, 4 years. As, first of all, Turkey is a close ally of Qatar, who suffered the boycott from Saudi Arabia, Emirates. And then in 2018, they quarreled again over the assassination of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul. That Tayyip Erdogan sort of overplayed in a move to criminalize the crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, whom we will meet now in Istanbul.
And just tell us a bit more about the impact of the Khashoggi killing on their relationship, the relationship between these two countries.
Well, apparently this episode is now completely overcome as the Turks decided to send the judiciary file to Riyadh in a move to really mend the ties between the two countries. And the reason behind that is that both countries are regional powers, and the quarrel between them was extremely detrimental to their national interests on both sides, for the Saudis and the Turks. The Turks now are in a deep economic crisis, so they hope to get more investment from Gulf countries. So the rapprochement with Emirates was the first step. And now Saudi Arabia is, of course, a very important potential economic partner for Turkey. And on the Saudi side, as you know, Mohammed bin Salman is now trying to establish himself as the next king of Saudi Arabia, and he needs to be sort of rehabilitated in the eyes of the international community. And this regional tour that he's starting now is a very important episode in that regard. And as we know, very soon he will also have a visit from the President of the United States, who will be the, let's say, the combination of this rehabilitation strategy.
Dorothée Schmid, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time here on Middle East Matters.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Now, Israel is headed for the polls for the fifth time in 3 years after its ruling coalition decided to dissolve parliament. The motley alliance of 8 ideologically diverse parties was formed in opposition to former right-wing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But a year after taking office and painful political gridlock, it's fallen apart. France 24's Joseph Keane has the story.
After 3 years of political fractures and 4 elections, the Israeli Prime Minister announced the decision to go to the polls again in a televised national address.
Israeli citizens, we are standing before you today in a moment that is not easy, but with the understanding we made the right decision for Israel.
The coalition government, which includes parties from across the political spectrum, lost its majority earlier this year. Bennett initially formed the alliance in June 2021 after 4 inconclusive elections. It involved a diverse range of parties, ranging from factions that supported an end to Israeli occupation of lands captured in 1967 and those who opposed Palestinian independence. It also made history by becoming the first coalition to include an Arab party, but the bloc unravelled in large part due to compromises made which were unable to please all factions. It was able to form in the first place in order to reject the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu.
There is a need here to rehabilitate the state of Israel, and we have the ability to do so. I intend to establish a national, strong and stable government.
Opinion polls have forecast Netanyahu's hardline Likud to be the largest party, but it remains unclear if he would be able to form a government. Foreign Minister Yair Lapid will now take over from Bennett on an interim basis. The vote is expected to take place in the autumn.
Now, the Palestinian Authority has called on Israel to hand over the gun that allegedly fired the shot which killed Al Jazeera reporter Shireen Abu Akleh. Abu Akleh was shot dead last month while covering an Israeli army raid at the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. A Palestinian probe said that an Israeli soldier killed the veteran Palestinian-American reporter. Israel has so far refused to confirm this. Leo McGuinn has the details.
5 weeks on, no closer to the truth. The Palestinian Authority are demanding answers when it comes to the death of Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, shot and killed while reporting from the West Bank on the 11th of May. On Sunday, at a ceremony marking 40 days since her death, the Palestinian PM called on Israel to hand over the gun that allegedly fired the shot which killed the veteran reporter. He also denounced the idea of a combined investigation.
We rejected the joint investigation because those who forge the history of a people and steal their homeland are also able to fabricate a story. And we do not trust the Israelis. Therefore, we refused the joint investigation.
Israel's army has said that it has not concluded whether Abu Akleh, wearing a bulletproof vest marked press when she was shot, was killed by one of its troops or stray Palestinian gunfire. And they have maintained that no soldier knowingly fired at the journalist, a claim disputed by friends and family of the victim.
What Israel wanted from the assassination of Shireen is to break us and the press. But it failed, because we will continue our coverage and the journalists will keep going.
The Israeli army's top lawyer has said that it is unlikely that any soldier will be charged with the killing, given the circumstances surrounding her death that, according to the military, amounted to active combat.
And we end in Lebanon, where a new skate park is giving young Palestinians a chance to escape the poverty and boredom that often mark their day-to-day lives. Snoobar Skateboard Park opened after Beirut's 2020 port blast, seeing a need to support the skateboarding community in the country. Well, that's where local NGOs hold classes for children from the Chatila Palestinian refugee camp. They say it gives the kids a chance to learn something new. Well, that's it for this edition of Middle East Matters. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for more world news here on France 24.
France 24, your economy explained. Liberté, égalité, actualité. The Oyapock River historically linked two neighbouring communities, but it also runs along the border between Brazil and French Guiana, a river known for trafficking and illegal crossings. The authorities are now trying to work together. With increasing poverty and illegal gold panning. Watch Borders, a reporter's documentary series on France 24 and France24.com. From North to South Africa, from Bamako to Nairobi, from Accra to Mogadishu. Bringing you all the political, economic, cultural and social news from Africa for a better insight into an ever-changing continent.
Across Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith on France 24 and France24.com.